Let's get right to it, you guys. After trading out of round one, the 49ers took receiver De'Zhaun Stribling with the first pick on day 2 of the draft. Now, Stribling coming off back-to-back 800-yard seasons at Oklahoma State and Ole Miss, and he turned heads at the combine. Remember this? He ran a sub-4.4 time in the 40-yard dash. Stribling joining a veteran receiving corps, which has a lot of talent, but also a lot of question marks. Tight end George Kittle tore his Achilles in January. Former first-round pick Ricky Pearsall missed half of last season. And new additions Mike Evans and Christian Kirk both had injury-plagued seasons for their previous teams. So, Mina, you think about that group. Why do the 49ers feel like Stribling could make an impact on their roster?
Yeah, he's an interesting player, Laura, because you can kind of see why it's possible that the Niners valued him a bit more than other teams in the NFL, and that draft pick did take some folks by surprise. But when you dig into the tape, playing at Ole Miss, the route tree is somewhat limited by the scheme, but you see a lot of the attributes that they want. You mentioned running that sub-4.4 40. He's 6'2", so that's a rare combination. He's also really tough. He's a good blocker, which again, very San Francisco 49ers coded. And he fits in, I think, with the players that they already have and that they added. Mike Evans is the true X. Ricky Pearsall I see as the Z. Stribling could play in the slot as like a big slot or just close to the formation. The other thing I find interesting is this Niners receiving group, and they spent 2 of their last 3 years, the top picks on receivers now. It's a bunch of older players who have had injuries, and then really, really young players, and not a lot in between. So, Ryan, it feels like they're almost trying to thread the needle of like competing now, but also trying to build for the future at the same time. Whether or not they can pull it off remains to be seen.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, the one thing about Stribling, and I love that Mina mentioned it, was he's also a big body. And you bring over Mike Evans. I heard George Kittle talking about him throughout the offseason and how he couldn't be covered. He's obviously going to be a red zone target. And the one thing that Kyle Shanahan showed, at least me, is maybe it doesn't matter who's on the field. We're talking quarterback injuries, a wide receiver room that was ravaged by injuries, and you even lose George Kittle late, obviously, but we've watched him work through this. And so if they can get some health, and I feel like use Ricky Pearsall more the way they used to use Deebo Samuel, I think that would be a good piece. Now you add Stribling, a guy that can run, a guy that can block. He can do some of the things Juwan Jennings used to do when he played the slot. And then it all centers around Christian McCaffrey and his health, because he played at an MVP level, in my opinion, last year.
Well, Steve, what's interesting about this selection is there were some people that wondered if it was too early for De'Zhaun Stribling to go. And yet there were a couple of teams that I spoke to in the draft process leading up to the draft that felt like De'Zhaun Stribling was the best wide receiver in the draft. Another team, supposedly the Los Angeles Rams, had eyes on him. And so the 49ers didn't just come up with this pick out of nowhere. They knew that there were other teams that had a very high grade on Stribling when the 49ers declined to trade out of the top draft slot in the second round and take him there. And Mina, you mentioned the combination of older injured players and younger wide receivers. Mike Evans and Christian Kirk, both with points to prove in San Francisco. Former first-round draft pick Ricky Pearsall, and now De'Zhaun Stribling. So there is an interesting blend of youth and experience there in San Francisco.
Yeah, it's interesting about the Rams. I mean, obviously, where they picked Ty Simpson would have been too early to take Stribling, but you wonder if they were like, oh, man, we wish that 49ers hadn't gotten him.
Hell, it was too early to take Simpson.
Well, I didn't say it, but you did, and you might be right. We're going to find out. Okay, so, Adam, we're talking about what this 49ers receiver room is going to look like, and given the departure of Juwan Jennings that we mentioned, the drama surrounding Brandon Ayuk, it does look a lot different. But let's talk about Ayuk for a second here. What's the latest there?
Well, we do know one wide receiver who will not be in San Francisco, and that's Brandon Ayuk. However, he still remains on the reserve left squad list. And it is up to Brandon Ayuk to force his way off that list. While he remains on there, he doesn't count against the 49ers roster. He doesn't count against their salary cap. He's essentially giving them a hall pass. But once he applies for reinstatement to the NFL, then you would figure he would be reinstated, the 49ers would release him, and he would become a free agent. But there are a couple of teams that have wondered out loud in recent weeks whether or not they think he wants to play. And that's a question only Brandon Ayuk can answer. But I can tell you that teams have asked that question, but but he is the one that can make things happen by simply applying for reinstatement, which to date I don't believe he has done.